The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Faiez Mustafa Serraj, President of the Presidency Council of the Government of National Accord of Libya. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Faiez Mustafa Serraj, President of the Presidency Council of the Government of National Accord of Libya, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
السيد الرئيس ميروسلاف لايتشاك أصحاب الفخامة
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to, at the outset, extend my congratulations to you, sir, upon your appointment to head the General Assembly, and I wish you, sir, every possible success in your endeavor. I would also like to convey my gratitude to your predecessor, Mr. Peter Thompson, for all the efforts he made, as well as wish him every possible success in his future endeavors. I would also like to note the very wise efforts of Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General. And these efforts continue, aimed at implementing the principles and purposes of the United Nations, peace, security, and human rights. President, you are aware of the challenges facing my people in these very trying times, the ones which my country has experienced since the revolution in February 2011 and its consequences, to wit, war and the negative involvement of a number of states. We have made efforts to mitigate and attenuate the suffering of our people and to achieve palpable success. However, a great many problems remain, and they won't be resolved without joint work within my country and with friendly states, as well as within the United Nations, to enable my people to forge the rule of law and democracy in our country. I should like here to refer to the efforts undertaken by all those who have worked to find a political settlement to the crisis. I'd also like to thank a number of states and organizations, including regional international ones, for the assistance they have lent us, aimed at achieving stability in my country. The League of Arab States, the African Union, the OIC, and the United Nations, amongst others. I'd like to seize this opportunity to welcome the new Special Envoy, Mr. Hassan Saram. I wish him every possible success and hope he comes up with rapid solutions to the current crisis. The political agreement which the Libyan people have achieved following 2 years of negotiations remain the cornerstone to tackle the various problems and to forge the institutions of state. We're undergoing a transition to ensure that we can coexist and that we can leave the past behind us and stabilize our country. The Presidential Council of the Government of National Accord is the fruit of all this work. It's an essential branch needed to implement and carry out national reconciliation with everyone's participation, without anyone being excluded. Since the very outset, we were determined to face up to the crises which we are experiencing, and despite the difficulties which we have experienced, and we have done this based on wisdom and patience. And we had a number of problems to resolve, and we put an end to violence in Tripoli and in other Libyan cities, law enforcement and security agencies have started to discharge their mission. A number of embassies have returned, including the United Nations mission, which will return in the near future. Certain displaced individuals have returned to their home cities. Others, however, haven't done so yet as a result of a lack of services. And these services have been undermined as a result of the military confrontation. But we continue to work to restore peace and security and to get rid of spoilers. In the economic field, we have been able to produce 1 billion barrels of oil, or rather 1 million barrels of oil per day, up from 150,000 in March 2016. We also have to mitigate the suffering experienced by our people during this period. And we cherish the hope that with a return to security and with the provision of the necessary financial resources and a resumption of activity by foreign firms, we will be able to build up our state. We demand that the embargo on frozen assets be lifted because as a result of this embargo, the Libyan state loses close to $1 billion a year. And we do hope that this will happen, especially in the current circumstances of an improving situation. In the field of national reconciliation, we held a number of meetings aimed at achieving unity and putting an end to our differences and existing divisions. There is a certain amount of political stagnation as a result of the fact that one side wishes to take all decisions itself. We therefore see that the majority is not able to implement the political agreement. Thus, in July, we presented a roadmap to extricate ourselves from this crisis, which provides for a referendum, presidential and parliamentary elections next year. And the roadmap sets up a Supreme National Council for Reconciliation, which should tackle such issues as amnesties and so forth during the transition period. This was reaffirmed during the Paris meeting, which achieved consensus concerning our move forward towards democracy and the peaceful settlement of problems via elections rather than armed confrontation. And this, of course, with the exception of the war against terrorism, which must continue. And it also involves restoring the National Army and our executive branch. In the field of the fight against terrorism now, we have tried and were successful in freeing the city of Sirte and from Daesh and the city of Benghazi and other cities around the country. Problems remain, however, in tackling the consequences of these terrorist organizations seizing all these cities. We'd like to pay tribute to the memory of our martyrs who laid down their lives to liberate these cities around Libya. We'd like to reiterate the need for a strategic partnership with all friendly states, especially the United States of America, and we'd like to thank America for the support provided aimed at putting an end to the actions of these terrorist organizations. All here should understand that the fight against terrorism is not over. There are new hotbeds of tension and terrorism. They fled both Iraq and Syria and have come to our country. And we ask to be allowed to rebuild our army to ensure that we have an army which is able to face up to the terrorists and protect our country. My country is experiencing other difficulties. We have illegal migration. A number of migrants enter the territory of my country and use it as a transit country on their way to Europe. Libya suffers just like other states from this. It's a burden on our already very limited budget and has a number of adverse security and economic consequences. We also lack the necessary resources to tackle the smuggling networks, the armed smuggling networks raging around our country. This is a problem, and we would like to thank all those who have provided us with assistance, especially Italy, who provided assistance in the form of training in the recent past in a number of cities. We welcome the support provided by France, Italy, and Germany, especially when it comes to the monitoring of our southern borders. Because this is where most migrants, illegal migrants, cross, and we do not possess the necessary capabilities to tackle this problem. So we have the problem of migrants, refugees in Libya, and the need to provide them with the necessary assistance. The government of national accord is working to provide them with every possible assistance, and we welcome the assistance provided to us by humanitarian organizations, especially in the form of shelters. We would also like to return these refugees rather than grant them citizenship in our country. The summit in Paris, which European states and Libya participated in, saw the emergence of an agreement aimed at restoring stability throughout Libya through a political solution, and it agreed on the need to provide us with the necessary assistance and to fund development programs in the countries of origin of these migrants. Human rights is something that my country is wedded to. Since the revolution of 2011, we have come up with a plan to promote this. We've adopted a number of laws to promote human rights. But as this is a transitional period following the revolution, and we're still working to restore the authority of the state throughout the country, this of course has had an impact, on the security situation around the country. And the Presidency Council rather, the Presidency Council wishes to see law enforcement agencies take up their functions again throughout the country, and we would like to benefit from the United Nations technical assistance in the field of human rights. Thus, my country has sent an invitation to the specialized programs in the field of human rights and invited them to visit Libya, and they have done so since 2012, and this is something which was reiterated during the 34th session of the Human Rights Council in the month of March. One of the very important issues facing the United Nations is Security Council reform, and we welcome the statement adopted a couple of days ago regarding this. We believe that this will help us in developing the role of our organization through the provision or the granting of a permanent seat to the African continent within the Council, in keeping with the Uswelini Consensus and the Sirte Declaration. The situation in the Middle East remains an absolute priority. Despite the crises which we are experiencing, we have spared no effort in our support to the Palestinian people on their march to restoring to restoring an independent state with Al-Quds as its capital. We back the Arab Initiative as the foundation for settling the Palestinian question. And we urge the major powers of this world to assume their responsibilities. We wish to see a peaceful solution to the crises in Syria, to preserve them from division and collapse resulting from the destructive conflict raging in their country, to ensure that their people can live in a country where the rule of law and human rights prevail. I thank all those who attended the special meeting on Libya this morning. It enjoyed a great deal of interest, and everyone present reaffirmed that the backdrop to any solution must remain a political one. And assistance will be needed for the presidential and parliamentary elections next year. And we ask the Secretary General and the Special Envoy to present us with a timeline and a clear message aimed at all those who are attempting to impede this process. They must understand that there is no military solution, and that we have to stop those who are negotiating with parallel authorities, because this would be a violation of Security Council resolutions. I'd like to reiterate here our wish, our desire to involve all strata of the Libyan population in our exercise in national self-determination, and we would like to see the advent of a state whose authority is preserved around its territory. Thank you, sir.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Presidency Council of the Government of National Accord of Libya for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we greet the Head of State.